George, I understand that there's a new predictive model for workers' comp that Liberty Mutual is going to be announcing soon that is really going to help you identify early on those cases that are likely to be extraordinarily expensive unless the right intervention is done.
We're very excited about it because what we've really been able to do is integrate a lot of the things that we have been doing over the last few years, taking the millions of lines of medical data, coupling that with our research, information from our research institute, merging that with the expertise of our medical directors with evidence-based medicine. We've taken all of that and we've put it together, and we really have come up with something really unique in the ability to identify very early on claims that really have, and we've kind of moved away a little bit from the term predictive modeling because we really feel like it's more around identifying claims that have a escalation risk associated with them. And understanding when a claim might have all of the characteristics of one that might become an outlier or have other things come into play. If we can understand that at 30 days as opposed to 2 years or 3 years, then really what it allows us to do is apply resources to it earlier on so that we can have an impact. So it's really not predicting necessarily that a claim is going to go bad, because our strategy is really built around the premise that if we understand there's an escalation risk, we can actually mitigate that by applying the resources and approaching it differently, even as early as 2 weeks or 3 weeks into the claim, instead of waiting 2-3 years when it's really gone bad, and really the ability to impact is really it's difficult at that point in time.
And can you share some of the characteristics of those claims that are likely to escalate?
To talk about a few of them, and our model brings into practice or into place dozens of variables. But the things we know is that things like obesity, diabetes, hypertension, they've been things that the industry has known for a while have an impact on the severity of the claim. What we've been able to do is take those kind of variables and actually merge them with other things like employee motivation, work environment, psychosocial factors, yellow flags, red flags, put all those things in the model. And the key is that you have to capture the data around them. But all of those kinds of things that if you look at one claim when it comes in the door, you think it might be the same as another claim, but what makes it different are the interplay of all these variables together. So the key for us is the capture of the data. Now, the first thing when you talk about modeling is understanding a claim that's going to escalate or have the potential to escalate is one thing, but the most important thing is what do you do about it? And a lot of times, most of this information, if not all of it, existed in a claim file anyway. But the problem was an individual adjuster has multiple claims. Each claim has many, many variables associated with it, so the human mind just can't synthesize all of that information and do the processing in terms of what this variable related to this claim might have as an impact to that claim and how it might be different from the other claim. So the model takes care of that for us. It tells us, well, this variable is what's driving the escalation risk on this claim, or these variables. And then what we knew we had to do is we then had to give guidance to our claim handlers to say, okay, this variable has an impact, but now this is what you do about it. These are the resources you need to apply to the claim in order to try to have an impact.
And analyzing all that data with that many variables is obviously a huge technology undertaking. Did you have the technology in-house to analyze that data? Did you need to bring in new systems to do it?
No, we did all of the modeling internally. We had to build our own data warehouse for that because our model, it's composed of over 800,000 claims and over 100 million lines of medical service items. So just the terabytes of data that were used to build this model were massive And I mean, again, we had multiple statisticians and actuaries working on this, the building of the model, the quantification and the validation for months and months and months and hours a day, just dedicated to that effort. We can understand now within a month what it used to take us 2 years to understand. And that gives us a huge benefit and an advantage in terms of understanding how we can impact that claim.
And with workers' comp in general, it's my understanding that for a long time the number of claims was declining, but the cost of each individual claim was rising. But I understand there's actually now you're starting to see an uptick again in the number of claims. Is that an accurate assessment of where the market is?
Yeah, we still believe that exists for the most part. I mean, there's, depending upon who you talk to and how recent their data is, some believe that frequency is still down. We do believe frequency has started to go up in the workers' comp environment, and we've been able to handle the severity increases over the last few years because of the frequency decline. But once the frequency starts to tick up, then you really have a challenge because of the medical inflation and just what's going on in terms of the development of claims.
And any early analysis as to what's causing the increase in frequency?
We would like to think that it has something to do with the economic recovery, more people getting back to work and so forth, but I think it's probably a little bit subjective at this point, what we believe, because there's other signs in the economy that you really don't see that would suggest that that's happening.
And I understand you've been doing this for quite a while now. Talk about the changes you've seen in the American workplace over that time, and has it become a fundamentally safer place?
We've definitely seen it become safer, but some of the emerging trends that we see are starting to cause us other concerns, like the mobile workforce and people driving and talking on their cell phones, people walking and talking on their cell phones. So things that, the type of risk that we used to see many years ago, we've gotten better about those, about reducing slips and falls and things like that. But things like carpal tunnel, repetitive trauma claims remain a challenge for us, particularly when more and more of what we do is tied to the computer. The other challenge for us, of course, is when you have an economic situation like we have right now, where a lot of the jobs that are being recovered are being done through temporary employment agencies. Managing return to work in that environment can be a little bit more challenging because there might not be a job to go back to, and so that's changed over time. 20 years ago, you didn't see nearly as many temporary workers or professional employment organizations as you see now, but a lot of businesses are a little bit careful about hiring permanent workers now because they don't know if the economy's recovering, or if there's going to be a double dip. So what they might start with are temporary workers to start off with, and they're not trained. They don't have the same level of expertise, safety knowledge, and so forth. And again, the return to work back to that job can be a challenge as well.